We have hit the final stretch of year number 2. Just 2 weeks left to go in the regular season. The Cleveland Browns at 8-7, currently on the outside looking in at the playoffs. And we've got a tough test today. The 12-3 Cincinnati Bengals, who can clinch the number 1 seed as early as this week with a win and a Denver loss. So we're going to be getting the best version of the Bengals because I'm sure their guys would love an extra week off in Week 18, along with not having to play a game in the wild card round. We're currently 8-7. That has us as the 9th seed in the AFC. We are tied with the Ravens and the Chiefs. Not ideal that there's 3 teams fighting for one playoff spot, and our competition includes Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson. But, that's where we are. We've got a prospect profile as well today. We'll be going over the defensive linemen in this year's draft class. The AFC Wildcard race and playoff picture as a whole looks super close. There are plenty of other teams in the mix, even behind us. The Colts are hanging on for dear life in their division. The Titans are chasing behind. The Steelers, who we play against next week, they are still in the mix, although they're in danger of their first losing season, and God knows how long they'll have to win out in order to avoid that. We also played the Colts in the last episode. Thursday night, primetime football, coming off a pretty bad loss against Jacksonville, and we won comfortably. 22-3. This defense has turned into one of the better units in the league. I think it was the game against the Ravens in Week 5 that was kind of the turning point. Now, the scores don't really show it. 27 against the Steelers, 28 against the Commanders, 31 against the Texans, 25 against New Orleans. But this Houston game, our defense played great. Remember, the Texans had 2 pick sixes and nearly a third. Against the Saints, they played well, minus a few big plays. And then ever since then, they've been awesome. They're keeping points off the board. They're not letting the opposing teams get yards. The Colts only had 213 yards of offense. The big thing in this game is we got the big explosive plays. We had 5 sacks and 4 takeaways. All 5 of the starters in the secondary were responsible for a turnover. With 3 picks, Lake with the forced fumble, and Ward recovered it. Kyler Murray got injured in the second quarter. Anthony Richardson came in, and it was an unmitigated disaster. Richardson, 3 interceptions and a fumble. Kieran Riddle, meanwhile, was solid. Going into the game, I said that we're not treating him like a rookie anymore, given that our team is fighting for a playoff spot. We need him to play like a vet. And I would say Kieran Riddle was okay. He didn't elevate the team, but he didn't need to because the defense only allowed 3 points. I'll tell you what, though, they're not going to allow 3 points on the road against Cincinnati. I can tell you that for damn sure. So we've gone through all of the offensive players so far in this class. We've talked about the quarterbacks. We've gone through the skill position guys. And now we've gone through the big fellas, the offensive line. So that moves our attention over to the defense, where we focus on the defensive line today. And it's a very unique group in terms of the D-line. I've made a lot of draft classes for a lot of series in this game over the years, and I can tell you this. This is by far the worst edge rushing class I've ever seen. By far. But it's also by far the best interior defensive line class I've ever seen. 7 defensive linemen projected to go in round 1. 6 of them are at defensive tackle. So as we look at where our defensive line is, of course, we're led by Myles Garrett on the edge. I hear he's pretty good. It's been kind of a weird year for Garrett because I think he's been inconsistent on a game-by-game basis as a pass rusher, but he's been excellent defending the run, and he is first place for the Defensive Player of the Year in the AFC. We don't need to act like he's struggling here. Had one of his best games of the year, 4 TFLs, 2.5 sacks against Indianapolis, but there have been some games where he's been silent off the edge. We've got some good players opposite of him. Josh Paschal, we paid a lot of money to. He hasn't really given us great production this year, but Baron Browning, who we signed in the preseason, he's been impressive. Jervis Dexter, the rookie from Pitt. And then inside, it's been certainly a disappointing year for Mason Graham. He was excellent as a rookie. Suffered the big injury late in the year. He hasn't been the same. He's looking better, though. 1.5 sacks against the Colts last week. I feel like he's finally getting his footing back after early in the year where he was just awful. He had a 5-game stretch where he didn't get a tackle in 4 of them. Mike Hall has given us some flashes. Not a lot of consistency, though, yet. And then Kosumi Bigman, the second-round rookie from Oregon. I think he's played fairly well. Still, though, our team should not be in the middle to the bottom half of the league in sacks with Myles Garrett and Mason Graham and Mike Hall and all those guys going after the same quarterback. So maybe we do look to add a defensive lineman at some point in this draft. But again, the edge class is bad, and we need edge more than we would need interior. There's one guy in the first round. There are a handful of top 100 guys. I think there is a good bit of depth, even if there's not really much top heavy. But we'll start with Crusher Hoyt from Georgia. Going into the year, I kind of saw him as a guy who could elevate his game, push himself into the top 10. Hasn't really happened yet, but he is still the top projected edge rusher off the board. Georgia lines him up in a variety of different ways, whether it's with his hand in the dirt, he can line up against guards and centers, but he's also been used as a traditional edge rusher. He primarily wins with power. He's got impressive strength. I think he's got pretty good get-off the line. He has good run-stopping metrics, even though he doesn't have a ton of tackles for loss in the backfield, only 9 this year. A lot of the other guys behind him have more, but he has a good run-stop win rate, and I think he's got probably the highest ceiling, given his untapped potential with the size and length at 21 years old. Behind him, I like Christian Sanchez from Florida, a guy who could sneak into the end of the first round, given that there are not many good edge rushers towards the top to begin with. 6'4", 250. Sanchez, to me, I think is probably an easier projection than Crusher Hoyt because he has a skill that he's very good at. Really impressive quickness off the edge. He's got great finesse. He's super fast, one of the most explosive defensive linemen in this draft class. Production's been a little inconsistent at times over the years with Florida, but he's got 6 sacks this year, 8.5 last year. Really, really solid player who, again, I think his skill set will translate pretty quickly to the next level, and I think the floor with him is higher than any edge rusher probably in the entire draft. Derek Shepley, big-time breakout star this year at the University of Michigan. 6'6", nearly 270 pounds. He's got awesome size. He can play off the edge. He can play in the middle. He started his career for 3 years at the University of Missouri, where they did use him primarily as a defensive tackle. He transfers to Michigan. They use him more as an edge rusher, and he really explodes as a pass rusher. I think he's best suited for the edge. He's able to use his quickness and his explosiveness that he wasn't always able to showcase playing inside. And his numbers, as you can see, have taken a leap because of it. 19 TFLs and 9 sacks this year for the Wolverines, and he was one of the only guys for Michigan's defense who played well in the Ohio State game to end the regular season. Jeremiah Kimball leads college football in sacks. This guy can flat out get to the freaking quarterback. He's got over 15 this year at Utah. He's an interesting case because in terms of his position, he's not listed as an edge rusher. He's actually listed as a will linebacker, but he plays a lot off the edge, and you can kind of tell that with his sack production. I do think he can play edge at the next level. He's 6'2", 250. He's got good size, good strength, good speed. He can play a little linebacker as well. He can cover, and obviously he can get after the quarterback. But even last year, he's been a really good run defender for a while. So you look at a guy who can make an impact in the backfield in numerous ways. I think teams could really start to talk themselves into him and his versatility and could end up picking him a lot earlier than that 67th projection. I wasn't even trying to make the 6'7" joke there. Dakota Van Dyke from Duke, he's had a nice year. He sat behind some really good edge rushers in the past. Full-time starter now with 10 sacks. Isaiah Williams from Washington. Njangai Ntulu from Ohio State. And Alani Slayton from Texas A&M. They're all very similar. They're all super big. They're all super traitsy. None of them have consistent production, though. Williams from Washington, I think, is the most interesting because he was really good as a sophomore, but his numbers have gone kind of down since then. All three of those guys projected right around the 100 range. I think with the upside, one or two of those guys could end up going quite a bit earlier than that. And then in terms of some names to watch on day 3, Lennox Dana from Mississippi State. He's having a nice year. Magnus Pearl from Illinois. Great quickness off the edge, but he's got an impressive blend of speed to power. Manny Ringo's had a good year at UNC. Chester Lawrence, 6'5", 285. Great size and speed combination. He's one of the few guys on that Alabama defense who doesn't stink. Spencer McPherson broke out to the scene this year at Texas Tech with 13 sacks, but he's like 6'2", 225. He's built like a safety, not an edge rusher. Shout out Emmanuel DeRugi, the Virginia Tech Hokie, as well down the board as we move over to left end, where it's even worse than right edge. Tremaine Gillikin from Ohio State. I do think he's a good player, though. 6'5", around 240 pounds. He played pretty well, in my opinion, last year during Ohio State's playoff run. And I like the skill set. He's tall. He's got long arms. He's wiry. He wins with his finesse and speed, but he has multiple pass rushing moves. He's got a diverse toolbox and doesn't rely on his speed overly too much. 14 TFLs in each of the last 2 years, 15.5 combined sacks. So solid production, overall solid skill set. I think he can be a pretty good player in the NFL. Michael Moore from Texas, another undersized guy, only 6'1", a little under 250. That's better than McPherson from Texas Tech, who's 225. Michael Moore makes it work, though. Even though he's a little bit smaller, he's got great quickness off the edge. His get-off is amongst the best in the entire class. This is a guy who flies off the edge. But again, he can win with his hands. He can win with other pass rushing moves, in my opinion. His block shedding rating in the game isn't good, but he finds himself in the backfield making plays with a lot of TFL, 17 to be exact this year, to go along with 13 sacks. Ultra productive. James Joseph from Miami, kind of similar to the kid from Utah, Kimball, because he's listed as a linebacker. I think he's going to go later than Kimball because he's not as big. He's only 6'2", 230. So you're probably going to want him to bulk up a little bit. It's fine now for Miami because he is primarily a linebacker, although he as well lines up everywhere on that defense. I'm excited to see him in action during the playoff. But if he does want to commit to being an edge, and that's where the money is, then he's probably going to have to add 10 or 15 pounds during the offseason, which there's no reason to think he can't. He's explosive. He is super impressive in the run game, and he's really put it together this year as a pass rusher. Miami primarily used him as a linebacker, but they wanted to be more creative with him this year, and it's clearly worked. 17 TFLs, 11.5 sacks. Arguably the best player on their defense. One of the best defenses in the country, and I'm excited, again, to see him in action during the playoff. Shiloh Toaloa and Asia Adebayo, both fringe top 100 guys. Donovan Warmack from Maryland, super productive player. I thought he was pretty good when they ended up playing against us earlier in the year. Amari Ojeda from Ole Miss. He's up for some big-time awards. He's had a great year, but he's small and he's slow. And that's not exactly the NFL's favorite combination in terms of their prospects. Cedric John from Louisville is an interesting one. He had like 13 sacks last year. Probably should have declared. Went back to school. Was kind of disappointing. He bet on himself and he lost. The exact opposite story of our top defensive tackle in this class, who bet on himself and he won big. Again, there are 6 defensive tackles projected to go in the first round. We don't really need a defensive tackle, but if a really good player is on the board for us, we're not going to say no. So, Curtis Glenn III from Michigan, he's not a no-name. He didn't break out onto the scene randomly. He's a former 5-star recruit, started ever since his true freshman year, and he was good last year. He tested the draft waters, probably would have been a second-round pick. Comes back to school, and he's the best defensive player in the country. I mean, this dude is a game wrecker, whether it's against the run, whether it's against the pass. He is unfreaking blockable. 6'2", 297, a little bit tiny, but I don't really think it's a problem. Aaron Donald was smaller than that, for reference. He's super strong. He's a really good run defender. He's a really good pass rusher. He's super athletic. I mean, I just kind of have a hard time figuring out something we can pick with his game, other than that he's maybe an inch short and about 10 pounds lighter than desired. But this year he has 46 solo tackles, which is nuts for a defensive tackle, 54 total, 26 for a loss. That's around half to go along with 9.5 sacks. He had 6 sacks last year and 8 as a freshman, but against Ohio State, biggest game of the year, he didn't show up. That's his first game of the year without a TFL. Alex Huber, the second-round center, shoved him into a locker. Glenn has been so good throughout the course of the year, through the first 11 games, that he's not going to lose anything in terms of his draft stock because he's been that impressive, but obviously a sour taste in his mouth, basically ending his collegiate career given that Michigan's not going to go to the playoff. We got to see Jesus Roos in action earlier in the year with Virginia Tech when they traveled to Lubbock to play against the Red Raiders, and yeah, he's good. He's hurt. Broken fibula, will not play in the conference championship, and might miss the start of the playoff. Texas Tech has got to be able to get that first-round bye, and they deserve it, being undefeated. He is a true nose tackle at 6'2", over 340 pounds, but he's got a little wiggle to him. He can rush the quarterback a little bit. That's why he's currently projected into the top 10. Think Vita Vea with him. I think there's a lot of parallels between those two guys. He was dominant when we played against them earlier in the year. Although, if you remember, he was not the only Texas Tech defensive tackle who played super well. That's because Denario Lasco, the other guy starting next to him, another junior, I thought played even better. Lasco's been a little disappointing through the remainder of the year. He hasn't been bad. He could easily still declare for the draft and easily be a top 100 pick, but he hasn't been as good as his game against us. Now, interestingly, there is a defensive tackle named D. Lasco projected in the first round. It's not Denario Lasco. It's his brother Daniel from LSU. Some family ties. We'll talk about that storyline in just a little bit. I think given Roos's ability to clog rushing lanes and what he provides as a nose tackle that doesn't always show up in the box score is why he's going to be a good player in the NFL. But the added pass rush element that he has to his game is what could make him a great player. Avonako Adair from Ohio State. He's an interesting guy to talk about because this is another former highly regarded recruit who's always likely to be a first-round pick, and that's going to end up being the case. He probably will go in round 1. But he's only played in 11 games over the last 2 years. He's had a hard time staying healthy. The talent is clearly evident. He's an awesome run defender. He's an awesome pass rusher. He can win in a variety of different ways. He's a super athlete at 314 pounds. But he only played 5 games last year, got a medical red shirt. Also, his play was not up to his standard, I would argue, last year. This season, he's played extremely well, but he only played in 6 games. But he's back healthy. Hasn't played since week 8, but he will be good to go for the Big Ten title against USC. And if Ohio State makes the playoffs, he should be available as well. That's a huge deal. He is a game wrecker up front. When he's on the field, he's just as good as Curtis Glenn. Ioleu Talotonu from Central Florida has pushed himself into the first-round conversation. Super productive player for the Knights over the last 2 years. He's also currently injured. I felt like half of the defensive linemen I went over today are either injured or were injured recently. Well-rounded pass rusher, impressive strength. I think the ceiling is a little bit limited for him, though. I think his development has plateaued just a tiny bit, but it hasn't really shown up in terms of the sack production. That's gone up every year. He went from 2 to 7.5 to 10. So even though some of the advanced metrics might say that he's pretty much the same player, he's getting more sacks, so that's got to mean something. Elio Santini from Kansas State, his numbers are as good as Curtis Glenn's. I mean, he's been ridiculous this year. In terms of size, he's not that far off from Glenn. He's a little taller at 6'4", roughly the same weight at 294. So why is Santini projected to go later in the first round? Well, first of all, it's still the first round. It's still really high. But the big reason why is because he's not at the level physically or athletically that some of these other guys in this class are. And again, I think his ceiling is also a little bit more limited. We're clearly seeing elite production from this guy. He's obviously had no problems at the college level, but in the NFL, the linemen are bigger and stronger, and I don't know if he's an NFL caliber athlete. The production is so good that it's going to push him in the first round. 26 TFLs, 15.5 sacks, and he's, again, not a one-year wonder. 13.5 sacks over the last 2 years prior to that. This guy knows how to get after the quarterback. He's played well against everybody this year, against some NFL caliber linemen. So I'm curious to see where he ends up. Certainly an interesting discussion with Santini. Daniel Lasco from LSU, 6'2", 323 pounds. He is a large human being. He's physical in rushing lanes. You can see it in that play. But another guy who I think, the run defense as being a nose tackle is probably what's going to get you drafted. But what's going to get him drafted in the first round is the upside that he has to be a third down player, to go after the quarterback, to play in multiple defensive schemes. And not every nose tackle is like that. So to have a player in Lasco who is super well-rounded while also being this big, space-eating monster, I think that probably pushes him towards the end of the first round. Although given that there are 5 players at his position ahead of him, it's not a guarantee. He's certainly broken out this year. 8.5 sacks as a nose tackle is absurdly impressive. Let's look at day 2, where there's, again, a lot of guys here. Not only is it top-heavy at defensive tackle, but it's deep. Brendan Mankins from Georgia is not the biggest name, but he's one of their biggest, literally and figuratively. He's one of their biggest players. Plays in the middle at 6'4", 310 pounds. He's got some juice to him as a pass rusher, but I think what's most impressive is what he provides in the run game. His block shedding rating isn't that great, but he knows how to engage multiple blockers at a time. He knows how to clog up rushing lanes. He makes it really hard for opposing backs to get things going up the middle. Teams against Georgia have to run it to the side because Brendan Mankins is a monster at defensive tackle. Kwabena Klue from Penn State has had a nice year. He's also got a fire name, so he passes the name test. That's certainly got to count for something, right? What about Bodaway Crank from Eastern Michigan? That is also an A-plus name. Crank is a very interesting discussion for me. He's undersized at 6 foot 294, so already he's a little bit behind the 8 ball physically, and he plays at Eastern Michigan. He's not exactly going up against SEC teams every week. It also doesn't help that Crank has missed most of the year due to an injury, and when he did play, his production was a little disappointing. 2 years ago as a redshirt sophomore, he was lighting up the opposing backfield, and he was lighting up the stat sheet. 51 tackles, 22 for a loss, 15 sacks. Since then, only 18 tackles and 10 sacks over his last 17 games. That's not to say he's been bad, because he hasn't been. But he hasn't been the same player he once was. He should have declared for the draft or even transferred at that point. Just about anybody in the country would want him. But given the prior production, given some of the athletic tools, it still is hard to pass on him much lower than the early third. Samson Little's having a really nice year at Clemson. DeAngelis McBurt, big space eater up the middle. Marquez Braum from Maryland. I think the floor with him is really high. I think he's going to contribute immediately. George DeMukagi, 6'5", 337. He is large. Akeem Boger from Miami, one of the highest rated guys on that defense. Does a lot of the dirty work. Lets the other guys put up the big numbers. Adonis Carter from Notre Dame has had a great year. And then if you're looking for gems, I like Zach Rawlings from Wyoming. When I was creating him, I realized, isn't there another Zach Rawlings? Yep, the Miami center, Zach Rawlings. The two guys projected to go in roughly a similar range of that round 5, round 6 area. I think Travion Jewell is an interesting player from TCU, and I like Juan Sosa from USC. He played quite well in their most recent game against Notre Dame. So that wraps up our prospect profile. We've got one more left to go with the linebackers and defensive backs, which we will be doing in the next episode. But now our attention turns to the Bengals. Cincinnati had a really interesting offseason. Everybody thinks, oh, they need to improve the trenches. They've got to improve the offensive line. They've got to improve the defensive line because that's not good enough. That's not what they did at all. They doubled down on their strategy by only getting skill position guys or players who play on the outside, and to their credit, it's worked. Number 2 scoring offense, number 1 passing offense, number 32 rushing offense. I take it they're going to throw the ball a lot. Their defense is also still not very good, which, I mean, for one thing, that's not really a surprise. It's the Bengals. But also, that is insanely impressive that they're 12-3, having a below-average defense. The Bengals beat us earlier in the year at our place, 31-24. We stayed in the game, but Joe Burrow was a little too good. He completed 80% of his throws. We did not really have an answer for him. And so far in this series, the Bengals are the team we've had the most trouble with. Now, part of the reason why we've had trouble with them is Chase Brown. They traded him away at the deadline. We don't have to worry about him now. But still, they are the only team in the division we haven't beaten so far. And I feel like our games against them, even though we were within 7 this go around, I feel like they are generally somewhat lopsided. Of course, they're led by Joe Burrow, who won the MVP last year, and his numbers are probably going to be even better this year. He's currently in second, only behind Jackson Dart currently for the award. I mean, Burrow's playing better than any quarterback in the league since the start of last season. When you look at the accuracy, when you look how he's led this offense, I don't know how they didn't make the playoffs last year with Burrow playing as well as he did, winning the MVP. They've got plenty of skill guys around him. Dylan Bellamy, 91 overall. Granted, that's with morale, but still 91 with superstar. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Christian Watson, Jalen Davies-Landner has superstar development. So both of their day 2 picks on offense with superstar devs. Defensively, of course, it's not great, but they do have Tyler Gamble, their first-round pick, who's an 88 with superstar. The Bengals did not draft for positions of need early. Their first 3 picks were corner, wide receiver, and running back. And they nailed all 3. They've all got superstar development, which is rare for my classes. This year, I'm not giving that many guys super high depth traits. The fact that the Bengals found 3 is kind of absurd, but also hilariously on brand, that none of them play the offensive or the defensive line. 2 weeks to go. Everything is on the line here for the Browns as we look to position ourselves closer to a playoff spot at 8-7. We're currently the 9 seed. We're behind the Ravens and the Chiefs with the same record as us. They have whatever the head-to-head tiebreaker is, even though we split with Baltimore. Riddle play action, gets rocked by Trey Hendrickson. Wow, he took a shot. Our door-dashing offensive line with not a very good rep there. Kieran Riddle will be feeling that one tomorrow and maybe some mornings after. 3rd and 16 under pressure. His pass into the middle of traffic. It's incomplete. Trying to throw it up for Judy, hoping he can do something. Probably should have just thrown it away. Here's the Cincinnati offense. Joe Burrow and company. Play action for the rookie Bellamy. Burrow goes short. It's Jamar Chase, the All-Pro, won the Offensive Player of the Year last season. He gets the first down to around the 45-ish yard line. Jamar Chase is as good as it gets. That's going to be a tough cover for our red-hot secondary. Burrow backs up, wants it all deep down the field. It's the rookie, Jalen Davies-Landiner, all the way, a 56-yard touchdown. And the Bengals strike first. The Browns only let up 3 points last week against the Colts, but this Cincinnati offense is a different beast. They've got so many guys who can make plays. Of course, the 2 rookies, Bellamy at running back and Davies-Landiner at wide receiver. If you watched Season 1 of the Virginia Tech Dynasty and you watched South Florida play in the playoffs, watching Davies-Landiner make that play should not surprise you in the slightest. That's what he did all year last season. 2nd place, of course, in the Heisman Trophy. As Judkins gets into the 43, the only player who finished higher in Heisman voting is this guy, Kieran Riddle, who gets it up the middle. It's Dorian Sahara who gets popped, but he does get the first down. Normally, Sahara breaks that tackle. That time he was lucky to hold on to the ball, but the Browns are moving it pretty nicely. Riddle, with around 6 to go in the first, he's got Sahara again with a hell of a block by Njoku, who makes a second block, breaking a tackle to the 11. 35 yards for Dorian Sahara, and the Browns are getting very close to the end zone with a chance to tie it. 2nd and 5 at the 6, it's Uncle Rico. Juke move, breaks a tackle, and he's in! Rico Dowdle in for the touchdown, and the Browns with an answer. Impressive drive by the 2 first-rounders, Kieran Riddle and Dorian Sahara, leading the Browns to a touchdown. We're tied at 7, so it looks like Cleveland might be giving the top seed in the AFC a ball game. Play action again. Here's Burrow, goes short for Dylan Bellamy. Bellamy tries to break away from Ward. He doesn't. He gets around 6, and that'll give it a pivotal 3rd down and 2. So far, Burrow primarily has looked short. Obviously, we saw the deep ball to Davies-Landiner earlier in the game, but we'll see what they can do here on 3rd and short. Burrow scrambles around under pressure from Garrett, breaks the sack. Burrow still up, and he throws it away. So the defense gets the stop. Impressive job by the pass rush with multiple guys in the backfield. Ideally, we got to bring him down, but at least we forced the incompletion. 3rd and 1. Judkins is swallowed up behind the line. Jordan Battle brings him down. So the Bengals get a 3 and out, and they'll get it back on offense. 2.5 to play in the first. Burrow looking. He's got an open man. It's Davies-Landiner again to the 32. Even with what has been a great year from Christian Watson, who they signed in free agency, Davies-Landiner is becoming a bigger piece of the offense as the year goes along. Now it's T. Higgins' turn, who gets it past the 45. We can't forget about arguably the most talented wide receiver, too, in the NFL. There's a reason why the Bengals gave him all that money, even with paying guys like Burrow and Jamar Chase. As that'll wrap up the first quarter. We've got a good one so far, tied at 7. Joe Burrow has been as advertised, but so far the Browns have matched Cincinnati's offensive production, well, at least on the scoreboard. A lot of the young guys playing well. The top 2 Heisman finishers, both with impressive starts. Kieran Riddle leading the touchdown drive. Jalen Davies-Landiner with a 56-yard score of his own. From the 32, play action. Burrow goes short. It's the fullback, Kyle Juszczyk, to the 18-yard line. Yeah, they went so deep into this skill position thing, they had to sign the best fullback in the NFL, too. 1st and goal. Bellamy loses 3 on the screen. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, 6, tackles 7 for a loss of 3. 3rd and goal now at the 6. Burrow in empty with 4 receivers in the game as he looks to throw it in the end zone. Jamar Chase wide open for a Cincinnati touchdown, and the Bengals are back on top. It's 14-7. Impressive drive by Burrow, who's only thrown the 1 incompletion so far. He's been unbelievably accurate, mainly going short, and it's worked well. 3rd and 8, good throw. Jerry Jeudy to around the 50. Solid coverage by DJ Turner. The Riddle places that one perfectly to where only Jeudy can grab it. 1st down at midfield, under 7 to go in the half. Judkins up the middle with plenty of room. Breaking tackles, he gets about a dozen. Good run there by Quinshon Judkins, who continues to hold down the fort with no Dylan Sampson, who is expected to return next week from his broken collarbone. 3rd and 6, Riddle looks to throw it. Looking short, Njoku gets Cleveland close to the yards to gain. If it was closer, we'd probably look to go for it, but I think on 4th and 3, we just got to take the points. We need all the points we can get against a team like the Bengals. Nearly blocked, but the 48-yard field goal is good for the rookie out of Maryland, Paul Kasharchik, and that'll make it 14-10 as there's an injured Bengal on the field. I believe that was Julian Okwara. Cincinnati back with it, 2nd and 9. Burrow with a strike. It's Davies Landiner to midfield. 5 catches, career-high 89 yards, and a touchdown in the first half for the rookie from South Florida. This is exactly who Jalen Davies Landiner was in college. 3rd and 2. Eric All gets by Lake. Nobody's in front of him. A 41-yard touchdown. And this Browns secondary, as hot as any unit in the NFL, is getting picked apart by Joe Burrow. 3 passing touchdowns to 3 different players in the first half. Cleveland back with it, 2nd and 10, looking to get some early damage before the break. Jabari Thrash to the 46-yard line. Cleveland still with all 3 timeouts. 38 seconds left, 2nd and 10. Riddle looks to throw it. He'll go short again. Jontre Hickson, the rookie from Virginia Tech, gets around 10. Cleveland uses their first timeout. We've still got 2 more in our back pocket with 31 seconds, and we're pretty close to field goal range. Riddle goes short again. Njoku, we're not worried about going out of bounds, but rather just getting these consistent 10 to 15-yard chunk plays. Get ourselves closer and at the very least, position ourselves for 3 points. 2nd and 6, short throw. Dorian Sahara out of bounds at the 21-yard line with 15 seconds now in the first half. Now with just 9 seconds, Browns still have a timeout, 2nd and 10. Riddle probably looking for the end zone. Njoku makes the catch to the 12 with 4 seconds left. We use our last timeout. Is there enough time to take a shot for the end zone? I think not. If there was 6 seconds, probably. 5 pushing it. 4, no, it's not worth the risk. Let's make it a 1-score game. Paul Kasharchik from 29. It is right down the middle. Cleveland finds themselves trailing, but we're still definitely in the game. 21-13 going into the break. As good as our defense has played as of recent, we knew the Bengals would be a different beast, and so far they definitely have been. Joe Burrow has certainly looked like the MVP. So because of that, it's going to be a track meet. Our offense is going to have to keep pace with them, and so far, we kind of have. I guess there's no halftime show this week. I don't know why. The last couple of weeks, there weren't any, but that was because we were on Thursday Night Football. This is not Thursday night, so I don't know why there isn't one, but oh well. It's been a good game so far. Big drive opening to start the second half. Cincinnati starts with the ball, so we've got to get a stop, trying to keep it a 1-score game. Burrow, 18 of 20, 233, 3 touchdowns. We're not sending really any pressure whatsoever. The Bengals are not running the ball at all. Dylan Bellamy only with 3 carries. Kieran Riddle, meanwhile, has played a good game so far. 12 of 19, 133 total yards, but we're going to need more from him if we want to come back and win this game. Eric All breaks the tackle, gets about 15 yards. The thing with the Bengals offense is, other than the 2 long touchdown passes to JDL and Eric All, pretty much all of Burrow's passes have been within 10 yards, but everybody's getting open. He's getting the ball out super quick, and he's been super accurate. See? Case in point. That's exactly what they've been doing throughout the course of the game. Our coverage has not been good enough. We've ran a lot of zone. We're probably going to have to shift and do more of a man-centric defense, because what we're doing is not working. Jalen Davies Landiner, the 23, is over the century mark in yardage for the first time in his NFL career. Probably the first of many, I would assume. That one is caught up the middle. Eric All's playing a really good game. Even though he's usually the number 2 tight end behind Mike Gesicki, the latter is a little bit banged up, and All has really stepped up in his place. 1st and 10 at the 10. Bellamy with the rock. Bellamy gets a block. Dylan Bellamy walks into the end zone for a touchdown, and the Bengals make it a 2-score game. The worst that this defense has looked in quite some time. 28-13. Browns have it back. 3rd and 10 at the 45. Riddle looks to throw it. Nobody's open. Up the middle. There's Judy. Good job by Kieran Riddle. He was patient. Took a while for that play to develop, but eventually he's able to get it for the first down. Didn't force anything. That's what we love to see there from our rookie. Quinshon Judkins to the outside with a block by Judy. Inside the 5, into the end zone. High stepping for the touchdown is Quinshon Judkins. And it's back to a 1-score game as the Browns decided not to go for 2. I think it's a little early for that. And so it's 28-20. Judkins continuing to play well as the sole RB1 in place of the missing Dylan Sampson. I say missing as if he's lost. He's definitely not lost. He's a grown adult, and be a little strange. As Dylan Bellamy runs for the first down. Bellamy's known for his ability in space. He's not the biggest guy, but he is shifty. But as you can see, he can run between the tackles every so often as well. Burrow back to Bellamy, gets by Schlesinger, past the 50, 45, past the 40. And Dylan Bellamy gets it to the 39. It's been much of the same in the third quarter defensively. We are still struggling, even with the adjustments in terms of the play calling. Nothing's working. Burrow connects on 2nd and 9. That time we set pressure, but he still gets it to Jamar Chase. I don't want to have less guys in coverage, but I feel like we need to be creative with our blitzes and maybe send an extra guy every so often. Final play of the third. Now even getting some action with his legs. A read option for a gain of 18. That's just completely embarrassing. I mean, come on. It's one thing getting carved up by Joe Burrow, the passer, but it's another thing to allow him to run for an 18-yard gain on a design run, no less. Bengals looking good, although the deficit stayed the same from the end of the second quarter to now the end of the third. Cincinnati's in a good spot. They had the ball at the 4-yard line with a 1st and goal to open up the fourth quarter as Burrow calls for an audible, looking for what would be his 4th touchdown of the game. Play action. Burrow, end zone, got it! Jalen Davies-Landiner, his 2nd of the afternoon. And the Bengals add to the lead. A career day for the rookie. It's like he's in Knoxville all over again. That first-round playoff game against Tennessee where he had over 200 yards and took over the game. So now the offense has really got to have a sense of urgency as that one goes for a first down. Ethan Posich, the starting center, is hurt. One of our few reliable offensive linemen. Now he's out of the lineup. This team can't catch a break with the injuries up front. Riddle's picked off! Malik Hooker with the interception. On the return, Riddle looks to catch him, breaks the tackle, past the 25 to the 23. A costly turnover by the rookie quarterback, and the Bengals are firmly in business, nearing the red zone up by 2 scores as they get the big fourth quarter takeaway. 3rd and 5 at the 18. Burrow to pass it. Burrow looking, end zone one-on-one, broken away. Greg Newsome wins the rep against Jamar Chase. Newsome was really the one who had the ball there. Jamar Chase had to play DB, and he was the one who ripped it away from Newsome. 35-yard field goal, try to make it a 3-score game. The kick is up and good. 38-20 lead for the Bengals as the Browns really got to move fast. We're down by 3 scores now with under 8.5 minutes to go. From the 26, RPO, Jerry Jeudy with a couple of blocks, gets the first down, and we're going to be going no huddle right now. We need 3 scores to come back from. We do not have time to waste. 2nd and 3 at the 46-yard line. Riddle will look to throw it. Riddle looking up the middle. Jerry Jeudy again with the first down. Tried to get out of bounds originally, then juke for extra yards. Didn't really work, but still a nice gain. I don't want to completely go away from the run because I think Judkins is playing pretty well, but obviously given the time constraints, we're going to have to throw it. That one is caught. Hickson high points the football. Jontre Hickson past the 20, a gain of 27. Tried to get him out of bounds. Hickson certainly not known for his speed, you could see there. But the Browns are moving it really quickly on this drive. 3rd and 5. Riddle rolls out. Wide open. It's caught. Rico Dowdle. A rushing and receiving touchdown. I hope you started him in fantasy. Should get some extra points for the backflip. And it's back to a 2-score game. That was really a perfect drive. We needed to move down the field super quickly, get a touchdown. That's exactly what happens. The lead is within 11. 38-27. Bengals back with it from the 30. Burrow picked off on the first play. Carson Schlesinger has room inside the 20, inside the 10. Tackled at the 9 by Jalen Davies-Landiner. And all of a sudden, you can feel the momentum of this game shifting away towards Cleveland. Schlesinger dinged up on the play, but the biggest defensive play of the game by the Browns. 3rd and goal from the 2. Riddle, Judkins gets nothing. You might have lost a yard. We've got a big decision to make on 4th and goal at the 3. I'm going to take the points. A field goal makes it a 1-score game, as it's good for Kasharchik. If we were any closer to the end zone at the 1 or the 2-yard line, I would have probably gone for it, but I want to make it a 1-score game. Hopefully the defense gets a stop to give the offense an opportunity. Down by 8, needing a touchdown and a 2-point conversion to potentially tie the game. We've got to get the ball back, though. 2nd and 5. Burrow wide open. Jamar Chase, first down, reaches over for a gain of 8. If the Bengals just do what they've done throughout the entire game and focus on the short passing, then they should be fine. We should expect that, but obviously be prepared for the run. It's a blitz! Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah is in with the second down sack. We are going to use our first timeout. Burrow still on the turf, as that leads to a pivotal 3rd down and 16. The Bengals have not played behind the sticks often today. This is not where they want to be. 3rd and 16. Burrow looks to throw it. Clean pocket. Wide open. First down. Dylan Bellamy to the 42. That is a killer. We had to get a stop there on 3rd and 16, but the coverage broke, and Bellamy, the running back, left completely unaccounted for. So now the Browns have just one timeout. RPO. Bellamy loses 3. Carson Schlesinger back in the game. Brings him down with the TFL. Browns use their last timeout. 2nd and 13 at the 2-minute warning. Bellamy in motion. Burrow will look to throw it. Burrow goes short. It's caught. T. Higgins, very solid play. Gets them about 9. They are pretty close to field goal range, but a first down does end the game. 3rd and 4 with 1:20. Defense has got to get a stop. Burrow to throw. It's a blitz, and it's caught. Who else but Jalen Davies-Landiner breaking his way to the 15. Burrow over 400 yards on the afternoon, and that will do it. A good fight by the Cleveland Browns, who pushed it back to a 1-score game, down by as many as 18 early in the 4th. But it is the Bengals who win this game, and with a Broncos loss, Cincinnati clinches the number 1 seed in the AFC. The Browns, meanwhile, the number 9 seed, fall to 8-8, and it is going to be a real uphill battle if we want to make the playoffs. A lot needs to go our way over the next week and a half. It's not looking good. We're not out of it, but chances are really slim. Even though the offense was not perfect and Riddle did throw a 4th-quarter interception, we put up 30 points. That should normally be enough to win this game, but we lost because the defense in our biggest game of the year laid a complete egg. I get it's Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and Jalen Davies-Landiner and Dylan Bellamy. I get it, they've got all these great players. But man, this defense did not show anything for the most part. Now, we made a couple big plays in the 4th, the pick by Schlesinger, the sack by JOK, but otherwise, it was a brutal day on that side of the ball for what's been a great defense for a while. 7 for 9 on the money downs. That cannot happen. Burrow, 33 for 37, 404, 4 touchdowns and a pick. A lot of his yards came after the catch. Most of his plays were generally short, except for the 2 long touchdowns by All and Davies-Landiner. Burrow was able to play point guard. He was able to distribute the ball evenly, efficiently. He was phenomenal and certainly looked like an MVP caliber player. We'll see if he potentially passes Jackson Dart. Kieran Riddle, another solid game, but not great. I mentioned it last week. We can't treat him like a rookie anymore, and some of the rookie mistakes have got to go away. Riddle continues to play well, but he hasn't elevated this team, I feel like. Now, to be fair, it's kind of hard to elevate this group because, well, the supporting cast around him really is not good other than the running back room, which Judkins played well again. I think we really need to lead on the run game in Week 18 in Pittsburgh. It'll be cold. We really struggled to throw the ball there last year. And with how well Judkins has been playing and with Dylan Sampson coming back, we've got to really utilize those two. JDL, 9 for 130 and a pair. Bellamy, 8 for 76. Higgins and Chase did their thing. Judy and Sahara lead the way for us. But as I was saying with the supporting cast, the receiving core is not good. The offensive line is not good. So Kieran Riddle can really only do so much. And it's really a question of, is Riddle doing the best he can with a bad group, or is he not pulling his weight and not doing enough? Defense wasn't good. Mason Graham was okay, but not great. Myles Garrett was pretty quiet. He only had 3 tackles. Didn't really send much pressure. So we've got a couple of new injuries. Ethan Posich, torn labrum. Denzel Perryman, one of our key special teamers, torn abdominal. They'll both be out for the next 4 weeks. Tanner Bortolini has been moving around on the offensive line. He will play center with the loss of Posich, and then we'll just need everybody else to step up in terms of special teams production. Now, the good news injury-wise, as I mentioned, Dylan Sampson is coming back, as is DeJuan Jones. I do not expect anything from DeJuan Jones, given that he has played in 0 full games this year. He's played more than 14 snaps once, and it feels like he is maybe a toothpick touch away from disintegrating. We've got a press conference after the game. Obviously, an unfortunate loss. It really stings, and our playoff chances take a big hit. Jason Graham says, we wanted to win through the trenches, keep their offense in check. I'm proud of what my teammates did. As for me, I can't take credit. It's kind of funny he says that because Mason Graham was the only guy on the defensive line who showed up. He wasn't great, but he made good plays in the run game. He was clogging rushing lanes. Nobody else was any good. So we're going to take responsibility, give Mason his flowers. And now we're going to take a look at our weekly recap across the NFL. We certainly are praying for the Ravens and the Chiefs to both lose, given that those are the two teams who we're competing with right now for a playoff spot. We'll start in Cincinnati. The Bengals improved to 13-3 with a Joe Burrow masterclass. 4 touchdowns, including this long one for the rookie, Jalen Davies-Landiner. Cleveland's offense still scoring 30, but we were not able to keep up with the Bengals. 38-30. Browns 8-8 going into their final game next week at Pittsburgh. So the Broncos kind of needed our help. We didn't really do them a solid. So now they've got to win. If they still want a chance at that number 1 seed, they can also clinch the division title with a win, and that they would do. 24-14, Bo Nix with a solid game. Wambley Mendoza wasn't bad, but he wasn't overly efficient, throwing 20 incompletions. The Cardinals at 9-7, hoping to clinch a playoff spot with their rookie quarterback next week. Lions and Bears, major NFC Wildcard and NFC North implications. Jared Goff and Jahmyr Gibbs say, hold this, Ben Johnson. The Lions get the win, 23-17. Big game from Goff, outplaying Caleb Williams, and Jahmyr Gibbs doing what Jahmyr Gibbs does best. I hope Jahmyr Gibbs is having a really good day today. I wonder what he's doing right now. Ooh, he's so tough, bruh. Let's take a look at our weekly recap across the NFL. We need the Ravens to lose, and we need the Chiefs to lose. Baltimore beats New Orleans. We're not off to a good start, 28-14. The Chiefs, meanwhile, beat New England 19-10. Way to do us a solid, Saints and Patriots. The Jets beat the Chargers. Now, they still can get the number 1 pick with a loss next week. The only other team who could get it is the Bucs, who have a positive point differential. Yet they're 4-12. If the Bucs get the number 1 pick, would they choose Tyree Wells? Because on one hand, I don't think Baker Mayfield, especially given that his contract is almost up, I don't think he stops you from picking a quarterback you really like. But the Bucs are also not that bad of a team. So maybe they do pick the best player available. Players of the week, Jordan Love, Joe Burrow, no surprise, Edgerrin Cooper, and Shaq Thompson. The old man still getting it done. So week 18, we're headed to Pittsburgh against the Steelers, who just clinched their first losing season in God knows how long. The Steelers have also been officially eliminated from the playoffs, so I guess that helps our chances of winning this game. Now, our chances of making the playoffs are slim. The Chiefs and the Ravens are ahead of us at 9-7 as the 7th and 8th seed. They've been ahead of us even when we had the same record, so this makes me think we might be out, but neither of them hold a head-to-head tiebreaker. We split with Baltimore, and we didn't play the Chiefs, so there might be some other tiebreaker that determines it that maybe could get changed in Week 18 if we win and they both lose. I mean, there's a 1% chance, 99% chance of faith. It's not looking good, but we can only control us, and we're hoping to beat the Steelers in Week 18, go through our prospect profile, linebackers and corners and safeties, and then hope for the best with the Ravens and the Chiefs that they both lose. Hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you're new. Peace out.